Hello and welcome to Two Across, the podcast where two friends sitting on either sides of a frigid body of northern water sit down and catch up over a crossword. I'm Rob Cole, sitting in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
And I'm Theo Bosencat, sitting in London, England, United Kingdom. Hello.
Hello.
That was a beautiful description of the Atlantic Ocean there, Rob. A frigid body of water.
Have you read any Jonathan Franzen, specifically The Corrections?
I have.
So I'm reading that now.
Are you thinking of is it the cruise scene?
Yes, where Alfred
Corrections.
takes a sudden, unexpected dive into the North Atlantic and then gets dragged behind the boat.
Yeah, just exquisite. It's a really, really well-written passage, quite literally, if you'll forgive me. So, Rob, Happy New Year. How was yours? I mean, not just your New Year, your festive period in general.
Yeah, sufficiently festive. Not much in the way of anything to report. I mean, the standard Christmas things were done. Puddings were eaten, birds were eaten, drinks were drunk. New Year's got completely out of control this year, which happens every few years. I mean, back in the day, I could count 3 nights of drinking a week, easy. You know, this is in the 20s. And then it sort of petered off. But you could always imagine that one day a weekend would be kind of raucous, and then it was one day every 2 weeks and so forth. And now it's kind of one day every few years that gets completely out of hand. And that was New Year's this year.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It's important to saddle that horse and give it a good canter on occasion. Ours was okay, but it was somewhat blighted by COVID. Because my in-laws managed to catch it just before Christmas itself, meaning they couldn't join us on the day. So it felt like a bit of a throwback Christmas, you know? We kept saying, I thought this was what happened in 2020 and 2021. We hadn't really factored it in for this year. But anyway, they did make it eventually. So we got to see a bit of them. And I would say my New Year was the other side of the coin to yours, in that I was in bed by 10:30 and had about 2 small glasses of wine. I did have a few other heavy nights over the course of the festive period, but nothing touching yours, by the sounds of it.
That's for your greater benefit.
Well, yeah, it's partly the having young kids thing, where you're aware that no matter what you require in the morning, as in sleep-wise, they will just wake you up at 6 a.m. regardless. So it does change your attitude. I remember the very first time I got really drunk since becoming a father. So this is going back about 8 years now. And I remember the hangover kicking in live, because I was awake when it started, which was not normal. So it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was changing a nappy or trying to change a nappy or something, you know, I was conscious. And then this wave of pain moved through my brain. I thought, what the hell is that? And then I realized, this is normally the thing you feel, you know, 6 hours later. But I was feeling it live, and it was a moment. It was a seminal moment that made me decide that maybe, you know, big nights were not for me anymore, sadly. But hey, in the future,
God knows.
I'm not ruling them out.
No, I am. But that's the yin and the yang of drunkenness, right? You should never be at that barrier point between the dark and the light, or the light and the dark, as it were. So you have your big night of drinking, and then you wake up a different, angrier, more shameful person in the morning. But the in-between person's never seen. So it looks like you had a glimpse of that human and found it wanting.
The inebriated twilight zone. I got to explore it. I had a little look around. I didn't like what I saw, or rather what I felt. And that is not to say that I get drunk anymore, but I think it probably takes quite a lot of alcohol to do that to me. And as I say, the cost-benefit ratio at the moment just doesn't make a lot of sense. But that is not to say I am abstemious. Anyway, we've probably focused on this subject for too long. And I have exciting news for all of our listeners, which is that we are moving our crossword online this episode. So it's finally struck us that it might be nice for other people listening to be able to do the crossword along with us. So we're going to trial in this episode doing the Guardian's G2 crossword, which is available online for free. So you can probably just Google Guardian G2 crossword. And the one that we're going to do this week is number, wait for it, 16,750. So if you want to find that one, we're going to do that. And you can fill it in on the website live, which also makes things a little bit easier. Although it will mean that our recently introduced buzzword of heavy penning will not be required, although I still think we can use that.
I think we can call it heavy tapping if we so wish.
Nice.
So now we're going to try an interactive two across. So we invite our listeners to log on to The Guardian, click on the quick crossword. We will put a link in our website if and when, and log on to number 16,750, a nice round number, to play along. So do we start this crossword and see what happens? I scanned the clues as you were saying that, because before we started recording, Theo had said, we're a little worried that these crosswords might be a bit more challenging than what Collins had been feeding us. And so this could be our Waterloo, our moment of great defeat and shame in front of our listeners. So we have to see. But anyway, looking at the clues, there's a few. I'm like, I don't even know what that word means.
No. I was going to say, we'll probably also have a UK bias, but considering you do have a British parent, Rob, I think it's better that it be British biased than Canada biased.
Yes. I showed you the giant
timer off.
I showed you the giant Globe and Mail crossword that they do every Christmas, which is amazing. It is literally a broadsheet, all four corners of the broadsheet in one massive giant crossword that takes you several days to do. But it is, and I was thinking of sharing it with Theo, but it is wildly and heavily Canadian. So if you hadn't consumed the CBC and things like that, you might be quite challenged to answer it. So hopefully this one's going to be a bit more accessible.
Well, for our next Christmas special, I think we should do the Globe and Mail massive crossword and just do a sort of 6-hour durational episode, because our fans will demand it.
Well, I think we're going to live stream it. We'll do it live on video, and we'll have, people providing us refreshments through it. It'll be literally an endurance match to see how long we can stay up and slog through this crossword. It'll be incredibly excruciating viewing, but we invite our listeners to tune in for that next Christmas.
We could do it for charity. So, right, I've started the timer. Let's get into it, Rob.
All right.
One across. Natural flow across membranes. 7 letters.
Would this be osmosis?
Yes, gotta be. Gotta be. Just like our conversation across the Atlantic.
Yep.
A wonderful osmosis.
An osmotic chat where great thoughts and unexpected humor transit a watery membrane.
Yeah. Could be a band name.
Could be a band name. Could be like an art rock or math rock, rather.
Yeah, I'm in Osmotic Chat. New album out just this week, actually. Right, one down, beginning with O, Watering Hole 5, which, talking of band names.
Yes, indeed. Manchester bands.
That is an oasis.
It is an oasis.
2 down, Florida City, 5 letters beginning with M. We will not patronize our viewers by pretending to contemplate what that is. It's obviously Michigan.
Yes. We invite listeners to share other 5-letter Floridian cities starting with M. This would be a little contest.
Yes. I feel that's the sort of thing the Guardian would do as well. I think we've got to be on the lookout for 1 or 2 clever MacGuffins. Is that the right word?
You tell me.
Like a red herring?
Yeah.
A MacGuffin?
A MacGuffin.
A narrative a narrative wrong turn or a narrative confusion. I'm not quite sure if that's accurate.
I've not heard the expression, but I will look it up when we're done.
It's a good one. Okay, 9 across. African tongue. 7 letters. First letter S, third letter A.
The first language of Lieutenant Uhura on classic Star Trek, and there's actually an episode where there's a being that can take the form of any crew member, and she meets a man who can also speak this language and is quite surprised because she didn't think anyone else on the Enterprise spoke this language. And the language is, for our Star Trek fan listeners,
Swahili?
Swahili. The first language of Lieutenant Uhura.
That's wonderfully nerdy, Rob.
I got lots of that in the trunk.
Oh, dear. Right. I'll bear that in mind. I'll try and steer us away from any Star Trek related conversations.
I'm gonna take the opportunity to do a plug for a really good friend of mine that does an excellent podcast on classic Star Trek called The Red Hour. So if ever you're looking for a 79 episode podcast on classic Star Trek, check out The Red Hour, and I'll leave it to Star Trek fans to know why there's 79 episodes.
He's a few ahead of us.
A few ahead of us. So 11 across is move, starting with the letter S. Third letter is an I. It is 5 letters long. Move.
Slide?
Possibly. I was thinking of what you call a period on the ice in hockey. Also I think, underclothes worn by a woman. Or is it something you wear to bed? I don't know.
Slips?
I'm thinking a shift.
Oh, a shift.
I think.
Move, shift, totally fits. Well done. You lost me at hockey. I've got to be honest. I was flailing.
Sorry, yeah, that's not very helpful.
No. Terribly partisan of you.
Highly. I went to the game last night with my youngest. We watched.
Oh, go on.
We watched the Montreal Canadiens lose to the bottom feeder San Jose Sharks, who are the last in the 32-team league. Montreal's not far from them, but it was a bit embarrassing. We thought, okay, we're definitely going to get a win buying a ticket to see the Sharks, and we got the opposite, which was very sad. But my youngest is a very enthusiastic individual, and he took all the positives from the game and forgot about the negatives. So that was a good lesson for me as a grizzled, jaded sports fan of the later years, to remember just to enjoy the simple joys of the game.
I was just going to explain to listeners that Rob is a massive Montreal Canadiens fan, and you were in London the season that they got to the Stanley Cup final, which is not so long ago. I mean, was that 2020, 21? Was it?
Summer of 21.
1920?
Summer of 21.
Summer of 21.
Yeah.
There you go. So I got to sort of vicariously follow that run, because you would watch all the games at 5 a.m. and then give me a full report on the school run that morning. And it was exciting. It's an exciting time.
I was desperately seeking fanboys. So it's, that when your team is in the final, you got to find someone to share it with. It's like this incredible joy welling up in your soul, and you need to pass it off to other people. So I was cruising about South London looking for people that would not roll their eyes when I talked about it, and Theo was very obliging. So
you kept bumping into people wearing Montreal Canadiens hats and things who outed themselves as fellow travellers.
We're everywhere.
Bringing it back to the crossword, 3 down, very appropriate to our initial conversation on this podcast. It is drinking game, and it's 4-3-6. So this is a biggie. This is a turnkey clue.
The first word starts with S space I space, and then we have T and 2 spaces, which one would imagine would be the, and then we have 6 letters or 7 letters, and we have 6, and we have no letters. See, this is where I'm going to fall apart, because it's probably a British drinking game.
So,
I got it.
I don't know why. Yeah.
I got it.
Is it Spitzer?
Nope. Very similar, though.
No.
And I think it's not known as a drinking game. It's known as a game that people play to encourage making out amongst reticent teenagers, if I'm not mistaken.
Spin the bottle.
I think so. That fits, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was going to suggest spit the dummy, which I've never heard of as a drinking game, but feels like it should be.
That's what a baby does when it, refuses to be pacified.
Yeah, but it could be a good drinking game name. Hey, should we play Spit the Dummy? And then you all have dummies and try to drink around them. And if you can't, you have to spit the dummy and drink the whole drink. There, I've just invented it. Here, you heard it here first.
That sounds about as atrocious as the game I'd never seen played, but heard of. It was the legendary Golden Century, which was this game where you play what's called a Century Club. So you drink 100 ounces of beer in 100 minutes with an ounce a minute, which doesn't sound like a lot. It ends up being about 8 bottles of beer with an ounce a minute. But and it is doable. It's just that you'd be surprised how drunk you get just drinking an ounce of beer every minute. But the Golden Century, the legendary one, was doing it without peeing. And I think there were some extreme kind of like ultra marathon versions of it where you go to sort of 200 and you'd have to like not pee. And then there were sort of extensions where people had these, what do they call them? I can't remember. There's a certain name for it where you'd wear adult diapers in order to continue drinking without actually physically removing yourself from the table of play, which just sounded like something I wasn't really into. So there you go.
No, that's straying into quite concerning territory. We've got to keep an eye on the time here, Rob. We're 20 minutes, as in we have 20 minutes left.
Okay, so we've got Spin the Bottle, which is pretty exciting. Why don't we try 4 down?
That's a big one. Yeah.
Gummy.
Gummy
is 6 letters. S space I and then 3 spaces. Could be sticky.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's got to be sticky. I was thinking in terms of like a sweet or something.
That's what I was thinking.
That's
in terms of the favorite pastime of Canadians who self-medicate on edible marijuana by eating their gummies every day.
Yeah.
That was a surprise coming back here from the UK, finding out that my country had legalized marijuana, which I knew, but just seeing how that plays out in reality. And how it plays out in reality is you realize how many people are literally high a lot of the time. Like the amount of weed smoking you smell on the street at 8 a.m. when you're dropping your kid at school, you're heading to work, and there are people just getting baked before a day's work. And one would imagine an untold number more eating gummies to get through their day, which is kind of troubling in a way.
I think I'd forgotten that Canada legalized marijuana. So, yeah.
You can't forget it when you're here because you smell it everywhere all day long.
Well, I was just going to say, now that you mention it, I do remember when we were in Montreal. We've been in Montreal actually twice in the last 12 months. And just on occasion, you would get that distinctive whiff, which, living in South London, I'm no stranger to, but the feeling that, as in Amsterdam being probably the notable example, it's just the sort of feeling of its ubiquity that I can imagine is sort of troubling, especially if you haven't been used to that previously.
For sure. And marijuana these days, at least I recall from my college years, is not a light, sort of easy, bubbly experience. I mean, modern marijuana with 30% THC content or whatever is borderline hallucinogenic. And thinking that any number of thousands of people are wandering around the street, potentially in cars, sort of pretty baked at 8 a.m. or any time of day is sort of an odd concept to get your head around. Like, who around you may be stoned out of their head, but there it is. Not that I'm a prude. I've imbibed in my time. It's just...
Sounds like alcohol in the UK. So we have an interesting clue here, which is one for any of our listeners who happen to be members of the Magic Circle. It's 13 across. Alakazam 3-6. And the first letter begins with H. So I'm assuming it's hey something.
Right.
I was going to say hey presto, but that's obviously not going to fit because presto. Actually, it would fit. It would fit. Is it hey presto?
I don't know. Let's look at 14 down, because that would make 14 down 4 letters starting with T, and the clue would be pumped up bike item. So that would suggest that the T is appropriate. And now we can fight over how we spell it.
Oh, yeah, because you're a TI man, are you?
Like the rest of the English-speaking world, I believe that tire, Tyre, is only the British spelling of it. Whereas Canada follows the British spelling in most matters, we do not in the case of tire. It tires me to see it written that way. No, it doesn't. I actually like the Y.
See, that doesn't bother me in the way that the abomination that is theatre with an ER bothers me.
So it is it RE for all those words in English, in British English? Centre, theatre.
I'm struggling to think of an example where it isn't. I'm sure there is one. And I'm sure listeners will bombard us with examples. But no, I can't think of any. And it just, I think it's a nod, isn't it, to our medieval linguistic roots. And
I like it. I think it's, I mean, it's certainly, I think the dictionaryists at Oxford, Cambridge Dictionary, when they decide to write it that way, they wanted to differentiate it from tire in the sense of tiring, like listeners may be tiring from listening to us diverge from the crossword while they sit in front of number 16,750 saying, get on with it. So, hey presto may work.
We are very, very distracted this week. We need to focus because we are now past the halfway point.
Oh man, and I'm also pretty baked, so I apologize for that.
And you're high as a kite, so between us, this is it's not going well.
Okay,
right.
Theo, I didn't want to do this one because I
tender.
don't know. Okay, you want to do tender. 19. Which one is
this?
this?
No. Go on. Which one were you going to do?
I was going to do 8 across because I don't even know what this word is. Grockle. 7 letters starting with T. I was hoping you would know what grockle means.
So I think a grockle is, this is difficult. I've heard it used as a pejorative to describe like a person.
Is it a brothel for monsters?
No, it's more like if you're a bit of a peasant, say. It's like a grockle.
Okay.
So if it is used in that, but I don't know that that's its actual meaning.
Well, let's try some of the downs that could get us some.
Yeah.
So 6 down is a bright star. It's 6 letters. We have no letters.
Oh God.
Casting a neutron star, that won't work. I mean, supernova, that won't work.
Something. No. Okay, let's try 7 down. Audio equipment. 6 letters ending in O.
Right.
Well, what are we using right now?
Microphones. We're using a preamp. We're using headphones.
Radio? No.
Yeah, it's 5 letters. Let's look at 10 across. We're going to have to start making some hay. Citrate. Anagram starting with C.
Oh, anagram. That gives us some.
And we have the first letter, which is C. So citrate starting in C.
So I reckon it's going to be C, R. No. Probably a double T. Oh, this is bad.
This is bad. Let's just try and make some really fast progress in the lower part of the crossword and see if we can get our way back up to it.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at 15 across, which is scaled, and it is 7 letters, 2 letters. The third last letter of the 7-letter
climbed up.
Okay, let's do it.
I think it's climbed up.
All right, let's just move really quickly here, because otherwise we're
5 down. Sauce making grains. 7-6.
5
Sauce making grave
source making grains, sauce making grains.
grains to
Sorry,
make a
I heard
sauce with.
source.
Oh yes, sorry. Sauce.
Getting on the sauce. Let's look at 18 across and we'll see if we can get more letters. Tender. 5 letters. Second last letter is an E. Tender.
Okay, 12 down. Actually, 12 down's no use to us.
Let's do 15 and 16. I know.
Okay, yeah.
15, 16 down. 15 down is man in chess, starting with C.
Man in chess. I'm thinking of a chess piece,
Yes.
but I can't think of any that. A castle.
Castle, yeah.
16 down. Resistant. 6 letters beginning with I.
Pass. 21 across quickly. Medical sign is 7 letters starting with S, and the third last letter is a T. Medical sign.
I need my wife
We do.
for this one. Oh, a symptom. A symptom.
Yes. I was too stuck up on sign, like a sign, like a board or something that you would have.
Yeah. 17 down. Imps. 6 letters beginning with D, third letter M. Imps.
Could refer to children. It could refer to mythical characters like elves. Sometimes they say those little imps. Why don't we try 22 and 24 across just to see if we can get a minister's book starting with nothing and ending with nothing. 7 letters. We have none of them. Minister's book.
Oh, there is a word for this, and I can't remember.
Let's come back to it. We need a letter. Aerosol starting with, we don't know, 7 letters. Aerosol with a question mark beside it. So it's some cheeky take on aerosol. God. We could try 19 and 20 down.
Oh, got one. 23 across.
Yes.
Greasy substance from woolly animals. 7 letters beginning with L. It's got to be lanolin.
Lanolin. Well done. That's really helpful.
Grew up on a farm. Comes in handy.
A little lanolin came in handy at times to grease yourself up before a night out.
Oh, God.
16 down, resistant is immune. IMMUNE.
Oh, lovely. Do you know what,
So-
Rob? We're getting there.
Wow.
Suddenly, we have hope. We have 6 minutes, 50 seconds left.
My hopes are fading. 17 down. Imps. D space M space N space.
It's going to be a very specific term that we probably just don't know.
Could aerosol be a spray can? 7 letters?
I was wondering that, but I don't think it fits.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry.
Or sprayer. Sprayer.
Could be sprayer. SPRA. Or no, it doesn't fit either. Oh, wait. It does fit. That would put a Y as the last letter of 19 down, which is groovy.
Groovy. Funky.
Funky could work. And then tender would be space F space E space. Okay, well, let's just put these in and just see if they lead us anywhere. Because at this point, we don't have the luxury of hypothesizing. We just have to go for it.
No, we're actually not that far away. It's just, I think the ones we now have are
Demons for imps.
done.
22 across. A minister's book now starts with O. It is 7 letters long, and the third last letter is an N.
Jesus.
Minister's book. Could it be a minister In government, like we're thinking a religious minister, but could it be? No, I don't think so.
Could be.
I can't think of any book that a minister would have.
No.
So measurer 20 down. Yeah.
Measurer, ruler.
Aha. Excellent.
I think measurer is ruler.
That makes sense. And then we've got, I think the sauce making grains could be pepper as the second word because it does fit.
Yes. So 18 across, tender, 5 letters, F ends in F-E-R.
Yeah.
Tender.
Because if it's pepper, it would start with E space F-E-R, and there's nothing that fits that. Well, if we had our hey presto, sauce making grains. The pepper doesn't make a sauce, it flavors a sauce. What kind of grains would make a sauce? Minister's book. O space 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 N space L for a minister's book. I'm not going to get that. I mean, we could maybe put in hey presto because I don't see that we have a choice in this matter at this point.
No.
At least we're putting more things. Our crossword looks better even if it's inaccurate. This is the amateur crossworder's greatest fault, is just throwing stuff in so it looks good. I know half of it's possibly wrong. Sauce making grains.
You can check letters. You can check letters and whole clues, but I don't think we should.
No, we can't. That would be cheating.
We haven't previously, so I don't think we can give in to that.
Our fans would disapprove. 8 across, Grockle starting with T, and you thought a Grockle could be sort of a serf or a peon or a peasant. But starting with T, I've not the first clue what that could be.
I think that's very unlikely.
And citrate.
Oh yeah, this anagram, right. We can at least crack this anagram.
You'd think so. So it's citrate, 7 letters, and the first letter is C, and it's an anagram.
The I is confusing me.
It is completely confusing. The double T is confusing me. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, Theo. 6 down. The bright star would end in S potentially if it's hey presto. Could be Sirius maybe is a specific bright star. But that has 2 R's, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it has 2 R's.
It's worth a guess.
Yeah, but I think it has 2 R's.
I don't know. Let's lob it in. We haven't got anything else.
All right. So C-I... Is it S-I-R-I-U-S? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
S-I-R-I-U-S. Okay, so that'd be a bright star. And then 8 across, Grockle. Now we would have I as the third last letter and T as the first on a 7-letter clue. Not knowing what a Grockle is, I must pass. And then we have our audio equipment, 6 letters ending with O.
And I'm afraid that is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is a fail. That is a bad fail.
Oh my gosh, what have we done?
Okay, we're going to go through these.
All right, so you want to go through them? Let's get the reveal, everybody.
Oh, howl. Could that be howl?
Yeah, because a dog bays. Yeah, howl works.
Yeah, that's got to be a howl. So should we see this anagram first of all?
Yeah. So it is C space space space, I in the third last letter, and then space space.
Shall I reveal?
Cartite, cratite. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
It is cattier.
So Cattier.
Which implies
Stereo
that we were right
is
with
seven
Sirius,
down, but
at least.
I think so.
Stereo.
Is a stereo. So at least we get that with it.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Sirius has got to be correct as well.
I think so. Let's check our Grockle out. That's 8 letters. T space space space. Sorry, 7 letters. T space space space. I space T. I mean, yeah. Could be ist something ist. T space space space. Tourist?
Oh, tourist.
Could fit.
Yes, I think that's a good
Guess?
guess. It is tourist. So not a peasant at all.
Okay, so for our listeners, a Grockle is a word for a tourist. We are learning things today. Maybe many of you aren't learning things. You're thinking, I did some great Grockling last summer. I mean, come on, guys.
I think I did know that. I think I did know that, and I think I thought Grockle anyway. No excuses. That was poor. Right, this sauce making grain.
It could be buttery pepper. It's space U, space T, space R, space, and then P, 5 letters, and then R. Sorry, 4 letters and then R. So could be buttery pepper, but I don't know
Buttery
what that
pepper is as good a guess as...
All right, so what is it?
Let's see. It's custard powder. Come on, Guardian.
It's just they're not grains. It's.
See, I was going to say gravy granules or...
I don't like that. Tender is offer, Theo. We were thinking gentle, and it's an ordinal for a minister's book. I'm pretty sure, because it was O space D space N space L. I think that's an ordinal. Thing that we can feel good about today. A couple of highlights. I think Lanolin is a definite highlight for me. We got nothing wrong. A few interesting good ones. Hey Presto is another one I think we should be proud of.
Yeah.
So we got nothing wrong. We just didn't manage. I think if we'd gotten custard powder, I think we would have cracked this mother. It was not getting the custard powder and probably cattier. If we'd gotten those two, we would have been off to the races. Those were the key clues.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for instance, you call it a grain of rice, maybe a grain of salt, but you wouldn't say a grain of flour, whereas custard powder is the consistency of flour. In fact, it's the consistency of cornstarch, which is even more fine than flour.
Yeah.
So I think calling it a grain is... I guess they couldn't use powder, and so they were looking for a synonym of powder, and they chose grain, much to our
chagrin.
So chagrin. So we lose. We'll put another loss in our column. We are now 3-2 and 0-1 on the Guardian Quick Crossword, but we will be back next week to tackle another Guardian Crossword. I don't know about you, but I think the experiment is worth continuing.
Yeah. Let's push on.
Perfect. And Theo, what are you pushing on to in the next week before we sit down again for another 2 across?
Well, I'm pushing on towards my 41st birthday. That will be an exciting day. And I'm also pushing on towards... I've got a couple of interesting theatre reviews coming up. I'm writing up an interview at the moment, which is
nice.
Which is also quite interesting, about the Roald Dahl Story Company and the way that they're getting lots of productions onto UK stages at the moment. So I've got some interesting stuff, and it's nice. I have to say that the kids are back at school and we're back in the routine, and I'm not, thinking about relatives' health conditions for at least a few weeks. So, yeah. How about yourself?
Really not much. January in Montreal is a bleak time. It is dark. It is often gray, although today it is brilliantly sunny. we're having an El Nino year, so it's been freeze thaw, and so we keep getting rain and then snow and rain and then snow. So it's a bit of a sloppy or icy mess outside, depending on what side of zero we're sitting on. So yeah, I think probably just grinning and bearing it, to be honest, for the next week or so, and plowing through a bunch of stuff. Kids back in their places, so it's sort of back to the routine, which I always find a bit of a letdown. I have to admit, I'm not a massive fan of routine, and so it's nice sometimes when that lets up and you can just sort of let things go. But 2 weeks time, just over 2 weeks time, heading back to Nepal. So actually I've got a lot to do to prepare for that. So we will be to a crossing from a few weeks back to our trans-Himalayan approach for a couple of weeks, and so it'll be a lot of work just kind of getting ready for that. So yeah, that's where my week or two are headed.
Good. Well, I wish you well with it, and maybe get yourself out onto the streets of Montreal, have a joint, and take the edge off the freezing temperatures. But yeah.
And you take an edge off 41. It's a lonely birthday, 41. People gather for your 40th, and then they just sort of ignore you for your 41st, and they say, get on with it. Get through your 40s, get to 50 for another depressing milestone. We don't want to hear about this. So I wish you a happy 41st. I think you should enjoy it as much
Rob.
as you enjoyed your 40th.
No, it's a real nothing birthday, isn't it? Which is, in some ways, quite a nice thing. Takes the pressure off.
It's a prime number.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, not
How's
quite the meaning of life. 1 year away from the meaning of life, according to Douglas Adams, but
1 year away from the meaning of life.
So yeah, there's always that to look forward to. Anyway, yeah, I'll carry on, as if nothing really matters. Bye.
Two Across has been brought to you by Rob Cole and Theo Bosenket. Original theme song music by Enthusiasts. If you like what you're listening to, do consider liking, subscribing, sharing it with your friends, or telling your cat about it. Thanks for listening, and we'll be here next week.